Hey, welcome, and we are so glad that you're here with us today. My name is Nick, and I'm one of the pastors at River Lake, and we believe church should be relevant, simple, and real. We hope to see you this weekend. Well, how's everybody doing today? All right, that was okay. This, well, that's a big block of ice. We'll get to that in a minute. Before we get to that, I want to talk about what was on your chair, assuming that a toddler didn't come by and steal them all. That when you walked in this morning, every single chair should have had a small mint. A small little thing that if you use it correctly makes your breath smell better. It is not a suggestion if you took it that way, but maybe it is. It's this little thing, and if you were here a few weeks ago, you heard me, I was preaching and I made a joke, and it totally was a joke. I talked about how these are at all of our things and how some people walk in and they grab a whole handful, and that some of you owe us money for those, and that you should write a check for $100 and say mints in the line. Well, somebody did that actually. So, in fact, they didn't write a check. This is so awesome. I love this. I'm going to show it to you. They had a how to hear God's voice, and apparently they heard it that day. And then it gave us five $20 bills and said mints. And I thought that was so awesome. And really where I want to go today is I want to talk about the mints, though. And it may seem silly, but these mints are actually a really, really big deal. As we celebrate the history of our church and kind of what's made us successful and what has not, these mints are a symptom, they're a symbol of really one of the core values that we live out week in and week out. These mints represent so much more than just what they signify. In fact, our core values, we kind of unpack this series. Number 2 says this, that we will focus on the small to produce the big. That what we'll do is we're gonna focus on small little details, and this detail really is important. In fact, some of you don't know this story. When we started the church, we actually had a meeting, an official meeting. We had 15 people there to pick out our River Lake Church official mint. And we got together, there was 15 of us, we bought all the different types of lifesavers that you could buy, we put them all in big bowls, and then we taste tested, and everybody voted. It was 14-1 for this mint, and what I realized that day is 14 people were wrong, and I was right. That's what I realized. But we voted on it, and so this is our official mint, which is also why we don't ever vote again. So anyway, The reality is that that's our mint, and here's the deal. If you come up to any of our events, if you walk into any of our doors, whatever that is, that mint, that flavor will be there, and believe it or not, there's a really specific reason for it. It's a small little detail that I think has big results because, all joking aside, I really do hope you walk in. Hope you come every single week. Hope you reach out your hand and you take an appropriate amount of mints, and you pop them in your mouth. And it tastes good, and it freshens your breath, and everybody around you is happy. And you connect that taste with this place, because here is the detail. Here is why we do this. Here's why that's the only mint that we'll have, because science has shown us that taste and smell are the closest thing tied to memory. And my hope and prayer is, and I pray about this is the neurotic details that we go into. This is how we live. It's one of the small ways of how we live out this value right here. Is my hope and prayer is that somebody comes here for weeks or months or years and has incredible experiences. That the worship moves them, that the sermons teach them, that God speaks to them through this environment. And all the while, these positive experiences are connected to these very unique taste and smell. And then they walk away for whatever reason. Now, I don't want that, but I just know that happens. That they do something and they don't feel worthy. Something happens to them and they just get hurt and they leave the church. Or maybe it's not intentional. Maybe it's just like so many of us. Maybe it's why you're watching online right now. It wasn't a moment, just kind of happened, just kind of drift away. That my hope and prayer is that somebody hands them a mint and they put it in their mouth. And instantly, because taste and smell are the closest thing tied to memory, they are brought back to this place and they remember there's a place that loves them unconditionally and is waiting for them with outstretched arms. It's a small thing. It's a small thing that we focus on as a church, and we believe it produces big, big results. As we talk about our church and we talk about these things, here's what I want to do. I want to make a little bit of a shift, though, today. Last week, we talked heavy about the church and a little bit about you and what that looks like. Today, I want to shift it, and I want to do the opposite. In fact, today, what I want to talk about is I want to talk about the small things that you should focus on that's going to produce big results in your life. Because here's what I believe. I believe that you're a few small tweaks away. There's a few small habits, a few small decisions. There's a few small things that maybe you need to get rid of or start. There's a few small things in your life that if you would tweak them, would show and produce some ridiculously big results. But for whatever reason, you're not stepping into it. In fact, I love what Craig Groeschel, he's a pastor that I follow, and he is all about this stuff. This is kind of his area of focus, and he writes it like this. It's so awesome. He says, it's often the small things no one sees that results in the big things everyone wants. Isn't that true? It's often the small things that no one sees. It's the small things that couple does behind the scenes, whether it's date nights or whether it's hard conversations or whether it's having level set priority moments with each other that no one sees that leads to the results that everybody looks at their marriage and says, man, it must be nice. It's the small decisions financially that they make. It's the things that they don't buy that no one ever sees, that allows them to save money or invest money that add up to the financial life that everybody looks and says, oh, it must be nice. That would be incredible. It's the small things that we do in private in our relationship with God. The daily things, the daily habits, the daily processes that we have, whether it be church attendance, whether it be our quiet time, whether it be prayer, whether it be obedience. It's the small things that no one often sees that leads to the relationship with God that people look and go, man, I wish I had that. I love this quote. And what I want to talk about today are the small things. The small things for you that if you can kind of pick one of these, and I'm going to walk through 4. There's more than 4. I want to walk through 4 of them, and I believe with all of my heart, if you can kind of adopt 1 or 2 of these, it'll change your life. These small things that you might dismiss and go, oh, Nick, what's the big deal? It's a huge deal because I believe with all of my heart, I've seen it with our church, it's a core value that when you focus on the small, it produces the big. And so 4 things today as we kind of unpack this that I want to encourage you to maybe adopt 1 or 2 of them. Number 1 is this, small prayers. Now, what I mean by small prayers is I'm not talking about the size of the request. I actually think you should pray big, ridiculous, audacious, only God can show up prayers. No, I'm not talking about the size of the prayer. I'm talking about the length of the prayer. Isn't it true that some of the best prayers that you can ever pray are just help? Short prayer. It's what Peter tells Jesus. I'm drowning. It's a short prayer. Peter didn't go into the whole, hey, I think the water is kind of going up around me right now, and there's a storm. And like, no, he's like, God, I need you. Like, it's a short prayer. Some of the shortest prayers lead to some of the biggest results. But too often we quit for a lot of different reasons. But there's a story that Jesus teaches on prayer. He calls it a parable, and if you've got a Bible, you can turn to Luke chapter 18. But it says this, it's so fascinating to me. He says, then Jesus told his disciples a parable or story to show them that, and this is what I want you to see, they should always pray and not give up. See, here's what I know about your prayer life. You've prayed about things that were big God-sized things. What happened was you quit praying, you gave up when you didn't get the answer that you thought you should. That you prayed about it for a week or a month or a couple months and nothing changed. Nothing was any different. They didn't come back. They didn't apologize. You didn't get the financial relief you wanted to. You didn't get the healing you wanted to. You prayed about it, but you didn't get what you wanted. God said, not now, when you took not now as a no. And so Jesus says, listen, I'm going to teach you something about prayer because I don't want you to give up. I want you to walk with this sense that you, in your day, are walking with God, and those small conversations, those small prayers, over time lead to big result. He said in a certain town there was a judge who neither feared God nor cared what people thought. Next slide. And there was a widow in that town who kept coming to him with the plea, grant me justice against my adversary. This is important. Don't miss this. This is a complete prayer. This is a complete request, and it has nothing to do, it doesn't go deep, it's not long. She didn't say, give me justice, and here's the 5 reasons why. She doesn't say, give me justice, and I've thought it through, and here's my argument. It's like, no. It's a short request. They don't need to give context to it. For some time, he refused, and he's like, nope. No. Over time, no. But finally, he said to himself, even though I do not fear God or care what people think, next, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I love that, I will see that she gets justice. Now, this is my favorite part. So that she won't eventually come and attack me. I have this image of this little old lady with a cane just coming right after him, like, and he's scared of her. But the point is this. It's not that the little old lady will attack him. The point that Jesus is saying, listen, don't you understand that this judge is evil and doesn't care? And yet, he was worn down. The request added up, and eventually he gave in, because here's what he says. He wraps it up. And will not God bring about justice for his chosen ones who cry out to him day and night? Will he keep putting them off? And the answer is, of course, no. That what Jesus is trying to illustrate to all of us is that not now is not a no. It's just not now. That there may be a delay, there may be a timing issue, there may be a struggle going on with that prayer, but just because you've got a not now doesn't mean it's a no. And here is what I think we miss this, is that fact that we honor God when our hope is in God. That there is this thing of, we tend to sit back and go prayers like we've got these small prayers, and some of them have significance in the request. Some of them are just small. There's like, God, I would love to have a good parking space. Anybody ever pray about front row parking? I do. That's why you all park in the back and I'm up front right there. That's the reason, okay? That's a small, silly, insignificant request. I think God absolutely cares about it. It's a small thing. And what happens is we don't want to dishonor God with our requests like, oh, he's so busy and he's got this. Like, no. Actually, when we completely, totally, always in prayer, walk with God. Short, small prayers. God, I need help with that. God, help me walk away from that temptation. God, help change my mind with that. I got this issue over here. Whatever they are, we actually honor God when our hope's in God. And prayer is a way of us saying, God, I don't have this without you. So the question I want to ask you today is this. What small prayer could make a big difference? What prayer did you quit praying? That maybe you prayed for a while, and you quit because you misinterpreted a not now or a not yet for a no. And you're like, okay, it's been 3 months. It's been 6 months. What thing do you need to start praying for? What is it that as I'm talking about a small prayer, it popped into your mind and you're kind of like, oh yeah, I did quit that. That is God's Holy Spirit reminding you, no. It was not a no, it was a not yet. I need you to keep interceding. I need you to keep praying for that person who's lost. I need you to keep praying for your spouse or that situation or that job or that thing that God's put in your heart to start. I don't know what it is. Maybe you're praying for clarity and you're kind of like, God, I just don't even know what to do. Keep praying. We honor God when our hope is in God. So the first thing is, what small prayer could make a big difference? Because I believe that when you focus on the small, it absolutely produces big results. It's the first one. Second one is this, small habits. This is my favorite thing. I love this. I'm all about the disciplines in life and the habits and routines, because here is the deal, and you know this. Small habits over time produce big results. Small tweaks in your diet, isn't it true? Small tweaks, 200 calories less a day, over time produces a big result. Small amounts of savings, $10, $20, $50, $100, small amounts of investments over a long period of time produce big results. We get this intuitively. The problem is the flip side's true too, isn't it? Small negative habits over time produce negative results. You can buy that thing for $10. It doesn't hit your budget, really. But you do that every day or every week over time, it kills your budget. 200 extra calories, that Oreo Blizzard that sounds oh so good right now. One of those is not going to kill me. but you do that over time, it's got some real negative results. To put it more seriously, in your relationships, there are some things you can do positively. There's some small habits you can do positively that over time produce a good result. If you're married or you have some relationships, you should have repentance in your life. And what I mean by that is if you have a significant other or kids, you should model real repentance, meaning you should go to them regularly, all right? You should forgive regularly. Forgiveness is a habit. It's not a feeling. Forgiveness is this thing that you do regardless of your feelings. It's a small thing. Do you know why that's important? Because you can blow it off and go, I'm not going to forgive you, but it's not a big deal. It's a small thing. But isn't this true? And I've seen it as a counselor for marriages for years. That small thing, it's like a grain of sand in your shoe. It sits there. And it's uncomfortable at first. And it goes from uncomfortable to irritating. And then it goes from irritating to infected. And then all of a sudden it goes from infected to something serious. And I have sat across from couples who can't stand each other. And when you get down to the genesis of it, there's nothing fundamentally wrong. They just had some bad habits. And they didn't walk with grace and repentance and mercy and all of those things, all of those small little things that in the moment it's really easy to disregard. That's why Jesus says it this way. I love this. He's telling another parable. And we don't have time to unpack the whole parable, but it wraps up like this. It says, whoever can be trusted with very little or a small amount can also be trusted with much or a large amount, a big result. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. What Jesus is talking about is he's actually, in this thing, talking about finances. He's talking about money. And the bottom line is this. I run across so many people who financially they are struggling and they're wishing for more money. They're praying, God, if I could just get some more money, if I could just get some more income. And what they don't realize is they don't have an income problem. They've got an outcome problem. And as long as they're still trying to control the outcomes going, I know I can't afford this, but I really deserve this. I really need this. I really want this. I'm going to spend what I don't have. As long as they think that they've got an income problem, they'll never realize God's called them to manage. It's a test. Everything that you have, it's a test. Your finances, your relationships, your job, your gifts, everything. It's a test. Every single day, you get to make the decision. How am I going to steward what God has put in my hand? And so whatever it is, your health is a test. So many people want to get healthier, but the habits that they have don't line up with the goal that they want. And so they want to get healthier, but they eat or drink or ignore their fitness. I don't know what it is. What I know is this: God will not give you more than what you currently will not manage. He just won't. And let me be very, very clear. God will always give you more chaos than you can manage, okay? So every now and then I hear people say, Nick, God will never give you more than you can handle. He absolutely will give you more chaos than you can handle, okay? He wants you to lean into him. But for the things that you want, for the goals and aspirations that you have, God is not going to give you more of what you cannot handle. And some of you are stuck. You are stuck financially, relationally, spiritually, emotionally, whatever that is, any lead that you can come up with. You are stuck there praying for God to do something big, and God's saying, yeah, but I want you to start small. I want you to get on a budget. I want you to go to that person and apologize to them. Well, I wasn't wrong. Doesn't really matter. I want you to go first. It's a small thing. And when you focus on the small, I'm telling you, over time, not immediately, over time, leads to big results. Here's the question. What small habit do you refuse to manage? What have you lied to yourself? I've tried that. I've been there. I experienced it, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. Try being on a budget. It doesn't work for me. Okay. But you just need to understand, God's not going to give you more of what you will not currently manage. This leads to the third one. Small groups. This is one of my favorite ones. We say this, and I'm passionate about this. As a church, I believe that you learn in rows, but you grow in circles. That this is intellectually, our small groups are the relationally. And you were made for both. That's the disconnect in the modern church. I think we have shortchanged what the church is supposed to be, which has led to a shortchange in what God can do in and through us. We stay stuck in patterns and behaviors and frustrations because of the small things that we refuse to start, and one of those is small groups. And this was from the beginning. If you look at the first church, Acts chapter 2, we talked about this last week, and I said Peter preached the best sermon ever, and thousands of people get saved. The first church is born. It's a mega church. There are thousands of people there. But if you read a few verses after that, it says this. It says every day, not just on Sundays, not just on Wednesday nights, no. Every single day they continue to meet together in the temple courts. That would be the modern day church. And they broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts. I've said this before. Often what happens is we put an or where God put an and. The first church met in the temple or the church and homes. And we sit back and go, listen, I'm either come to Sunday mornings, Nick, isn't that enough? I mean, the whole deal, like I come and I'm here and I know people and as much as I want to know people, like I'm not a people person. It's like everybody's like, we know, like it's okay. Or I hear people all the time like, Nick, I don't need the big church. The church is just the body. It's just the people. I don't need to be connected to a local church. Maybe that's what you're saying online. You've got a home group and that's incredible. But it's both and. And the reason it's both and is because of this principle right here, that community is only ever built with consistency. That I think one of the reasons so many people are stuck relationally, stuck in habits, stuck in mindsets, is because it's easy. Let's be honest. It's easy to show up on a Sunday morning, hear a message, listen to some great music, maybe even sing a little bit, raise your hand if you're feeling super bold and, kind of spiritual. It's easy to have a great experience, but stay stuck because you don't have the relational equity to go forward. See, God wants you to experience him relationally, but he also wants you to experience other people relationally through accountability, through support, through prayer. If you're not connected with a small group of people, what happens is it's easy just to stay in the rows and never experience the abundance and the grace and the freedom that God's called you to experience. It's a small thing. We're talking an hour and a half. You get 168 hours a week. It's an hour and a half. It's a small amount of time compared to what you have that can lead to a huge result. And I get it. Every now and then I'm like, Nick, I've tried small groups. I've been there. They're weird. And I'm kind of like, well, that's because you were there. You're the weird one, okay? Right? Like, you know those people, right? Like, it's just crazy. And here's what I would say. Of course small groups are weird. Do you know why? Because you commit, normally this is how a small group goes. Let's take 7 random couples who don't know each other or anything about them. Let's put them in a small space, put some cheap pizza as if that's going to fix it all, and then start to share a whole bunch of stories. That's weird. And weird things happen, and people share too much, and you got the one spouse that's looking at the other spouse going, don't you dare say something. And then they say something, and then they're fighting, and it's awkward for everybody. You're like, they're going to have a weird drive home, right? If it was easy, everybody'd do it. If it wasn't awkward and weird, everybody'd do it. But I'm telling you, you were made for community. You were made to have other people know the brokenness, the weirdness, the awkwardness of who you are, and still commit to showing up every single week with you and go, no, I'm with you. No, I've been praying for you. No, I know you're struggling with that. No, I know you got that issue going on in your relationship, and I want you to know you've got a small group of people who are in it to win it with you, no matter what happens. And you were made for that. Which leads to the question, are you connected to a small group of people? When chaos hits, it's that small group of people that will be there for you more than you know. That's the third one, small groups. The fourth one is maybe the toughest one. It's this right here, small beginnings. Small beginnings. I love there's a verse in Zechariah, and that's a book in the Old Testament, and the context is this. They're rebuilding the temple, and if you don't know why they'd have to rebuild the temple, it's because originally a man named Solomon built the temple. It was huge. It was beautiful. It would have been considered at the time one of the wonders of the world. People traveled all over the world to come show up to see what God had done in and through the nation of Israel. It was beautiful. It was magnificent. It was gold and silver everywhere. It was breathtaking. And then it was destroyed. And Zechariah is the story where the nation comes back and they start to build the temple again. But unfortunately, when they start to build the temple again, they don't have the resources that they had when Solomon's time. They don't have the people that they had during Solomon's time. They don't have the energy and focus that they had. They don't have the economy, the people, or anything. And so the temple is much, much smaller. It is scaled down, and the people start to grumble because it doesn't look as good as it originally did. And God speaks in this book, and here's what he says. He says, who dares despise the day of small things? The problem with so many things that we're called to do is that it starts too small for us. It's the fitness journey, and you're not strong enough. And so you don't want to go into the gym with all the professional workout people and put 5s on the side of the bar and looks foolish. It's the person who needs to lose weight or fix their health. And again, it's hard. And so it's just hard to go and show up. It's the person financially who's called to save, but all they can save is $10 a month. And what's $10 a month? Are you kidding me? I mean, over a whole year, that's only $120, and who cares about $120? It's just a small little thing. And so what we do is we actually forget that the principle isn't that God's lacking or you're lacking in finances. The principle is you're lacking in faithfulness to manage what you've currently been given. And God can blow up your finances instantly. God can change your marriage. God can change your health. God can change whatever in a moment. It's a test. But what happens is the small beginnings hold us back. In fact, here's what I want you to see. The blessing that you desire, that thing that you want in your life, you're like, man, I would love to have this. That would be incredible. The blessing you desire comes after the beginning you despise. See, when we started the church is awesome. We had nothing. I mean, you talk about small beginnings. There was a small group of people, some of you in this room, some of you maybe watching, you were with us. We had nothing. We didn't have a PA system. We didn't have a place to go. We had a small group of people who understood we're not going to despise small beginnings. We're going to do the daily things, the consistent things over time, and we're going to see what God does. But we didn't have much. In fact, I remember we did a sermon. This was one of my first sermons, okay? And my sermon was titled, this is not a joke actually, it was like week 2 or 3, and my sermon was titled, I need $42,000 by next week. That was the sermon title. And again, I was like, man, we're starting this church, we're all here. And so I preached my best giving sermon. It wasn't that great because the results next week, but I preached my best giving sermon, and we did that. And next week we raised like $24,000, which everybody was like, oh, that was incredible. And I was going, yeah, but I still need $42,000. Like there's a delta there, okay? It was a struggle. We didn't have any money. We didn't have any great lights. We didn't have a sound system. We didn't have a TV on stage. We didn't have anything. You know what we had? We had a small group of people who did not despise small beginnings, that understood the power of small details and consistency over time. And this church, and so many of you are here today, are watching online because people understood the power of small things, the power of showing up every single week and greeting people in the parking lot. Our parking team is so important. Do you know why? Because we never know when it's going to be somebody's first week. It's the power of the connections team and the nursery and the kids ministry, because we never know when a kid's going to need to know about Jesus and they're ready for it. It's the power of all the little details that we do. It's the power of the small details. When we focus on the small, it produces the big. And so the question I've got for you today is this: what small beginning are you avoiding because it requires a humble start? It requires a little bit of embarrassment. Like you feel like God's calling you to start something, and you're like, I'm too old to be doing this. It's embarrassing. I remember I had my accountability partner, who is still to this day my accountability partner. He walks up to me in the bathroom and asks me a question. Side note, guys, don't do that. That's weird. So, but he said, hey, Nick, would you be my accountability partner? And I'm like, yeah. And I remember he was like 20 years older than me. And I remember asking him, Why would you know, why me? Like there's a lot of people in the church and I was like 24 years old. And he goes, well, I asked the elders if they could show me how to do accountability, and they laughed at me because they thought I was joking. And I was too embarrassed to tell them I was serious. See, there's maybe some stuff that you're embarrassed to say, I don't know. Maybe somebody said something to you. Maybe somebody laughed at you. I don't know what it is. What small beginning are you avoiding? Because it requires, you got to humble yourself and go, no, I should be farther along. And I'd hope to be farther along in my budget, but I need to take a finance class. And I know I'm 50, I know I'm 60, but I got to figure this out. I got to take a 101 spiritual class because I've been in church for 30 years and I don't really know much. I mean, I've just kind of repeated that same year over and over and over again in my walk with God, but I got to start taking it seriously. So I know I should be farther along, but I got to humble myself and kind of admit, no, I need do you have a 101 class? I don't know what it is. What I know is for every single one of us, there's something there. But here's what's going to hold you back, though. See, I told you about the ice cube, right? I said we're going to get to that. It's a big block of ice, and it's been sitting there for a while. It's cold. And I did some crazy research this week, and again, many of you may know this, I didn't, but ice both freezes and thaws at 30 degrees. There's something about that, and I'm not quite sure, I haven't figured it out yet, but it's weird for me. But anyway, and this ice cube is what's going to hold some of you back from your next step. Because if I was going to melt this, like I'm trying to melt it right now, trying to let the environment kind of heat it up. We put this in the deep freezer last night, and so it got to 13, 14 degrees. I don't know what it was, but here is the deal. James Clear talks about this in his book, Atomic Habits. And he says, if you're trying to melt an ice cube, what happens is it has to get to 32 degrees. The problem is if it starts at 14, then you've got to hit 15 degrees, 16 degrees, 17 degrees. You got to go through all the different degrees until you get to 32. And the issue for many people is they have these small habits, they have these small things, they're stuck on 31 degrees. They quit at 29 degrees because they had been heating it up. And while it had been getting better, they couldn't see the results yet. It was warmer. It was melting. You just couldn't see it. Some of you have a marriage that God wants to redeem and do something incredible in, and you have been praying about it, and you've been kind of, and here's the deal. Their heart's been melting, but you just can't see it yet. And God's going, no, I need you to keep praying. It's happening. You're just not at 32. It's coming. There's some financial things. There's a fitness thing. There's a relationship with God that maybe you feel so disconnected from God. You're in this kind of season of darkness. And you don't feel anything. But our feelings follow our faithfulness. And while you may not see it melting, you may not see what God's doing, it's heating up. And it will get there. You're just stuck on 31 degrees. It'll melt eventually. Don't stop early. Not now. It's not no. Just because you haven't seen the results of the habit doesn't mean it's not changing. Do not despise the small beginnings that God has for you. So as we kind of wrap it up, here's my question. What's your next step? What is it God's calling you to do? Maybe it's to pray, to go back to something. It could be a habit, to start something, or maybe it's to stop something. Maybe you have a habit that you're like, it's holding me back. I gotta stop that. Maybe it's to join a small group, to really be invested, to understand that community really only is an option with consistency. Or maybe God's got something He wants you to start. Maybe God's got something He's moving in you, and it's going to require some humility. It's going to require you kind of raising your hand figuratively, kind of going, okay, you know what, this is going to be embarrassing, but I gotta ask some questions. I gotta be humble. I should be farther along, and I'm not, but that's okay. Because I believe more than anything, small details, small steps, small habits, small prayers, small groups, they produce in us something so incredible. And as a church, we're going to keep doing that. As a church, our core value is we will We will focus on the small to produce the big. We're going to keep doing mints. We're going to keep doing all the stuff that we do that you don't see. Light, little bitty glow sticks, all those little illustrations, all the songs that we put, all those little details that total up to an experience. It's what we do. Because at church, we focus on small to produce the big. And over the past 10 years, God has blessed us abundantly. Today's an invitation for you to join us in your own personal life. Would you stand with me? Let me pray for you. God, thank you for all the small details that you take care of that we never even notice. The small protections, the small graces, the small mercies, the small gifts that we never thank you for because we never notice. God, help us focus on the small, to pay attention to the things that are important to you, to be willing to humbly step into a new experience and not despise those beginnings. God, I pray for every person in here that it would be clear what they're called to do and what their next step is with you. We love you. We thank you so much. Amen. Hey, last thing is this. As you walk out, we've got our new Next Steps booth out there. If you've got a question about next steps, whatever they would be, with God, with other people, small groups, stop there. For everybody else, God bless. We'll see you next Sunday.